this regular meeting of September 11, 2018 to order. Will you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to all. I'm going to deviate ever so slightly from the beginning of our meeting, and I'm going to turn that over to Trustee Hawes.
Actually, I'd just like to request on behalf of our body, on behalf of the township and everybody that's in attendance, that we take just a minute, a brief moment of silence to pay respect to the travesty that happened 17 years ago in 9/11, but simultaneously we've had two significant losses within the township within the last week that it hit pretty hard. So if we can just take a moment, pay our respects, and then we can reconvene.
Thank you for that. We have the agenda before us. Does anybody have additions, corrections, deletions to the agenda?
I would just ask that the record reflect that our road superintendent, Joe Nicino, is out on excused absence, extremely ill.
I'd like to add Parks 2 silver sneakers.
Yeah, I think so. I know, that's what I said. Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah.
Must have been your some leaves, because it's usually the leaves that do it.
Yeah. Anything else? Anybody have anything else? All right. Agenda will stand then as edited. We will start with the sheriff's report, and I do understand that we have somebody in the audience that has a concern for either both the board and or the sheriff. So if you would, you could stand, state your name and address to the fiscal officer for the record. You can stand where you are, or you can come up here.
Sure, I can do that. Hi, Bill Keltner. My address is 3035 33rd Street, Northeast, Canton, Ohio, 44705. Thank you. Hi.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No.
We actually do have the sheriff here tonight.
I see that,
So
yes.
George Meyer is in the audience, so I don't know if your timing was good or bad.
Well, actually, I stopped up this morning and told my girlfriend they would be here. So.
Major C.J. Stantz is here also with him, so welcome, by the way. And go ahead.
Okay, well, first of all, I want to thank Scott Hawes for listening to my email and forwarding it to the Sheriff's Department. I want to thank the Sheriff's Department for responding very quickly. Sorry, I'm a little nervous, so if I say no a few times. In August, I actually had two incidents at my house to my neighbors where there was, my truck was broken into, and then a week later my shed was broken into, my lawnmower was stolen. My neighbor's sheds were broken into the same night. Apparently in the neighborhood, I found out later other sheds have been broken into. And I know it happens, and I appreciate the response from the Sheriff's Department. I think they do a great job. My concern is I live by a major retailer. And the same night that my truck got broken into, there was 5 cars broken into the Walmart parking lot. Purses were stolen. And for my incident, a little bit of money was stolen. It wasn't that big of a deal. I'm more concerned about my family than I'm about stuff. The biggest problem that we have in the area, and I know this is a commissioner problem and not a trustee problem, is the reopening of Enro Avenue. Okay, I'm very sorry. 33rd and Enro is someone's going to get seriously hurt there. Constantly, it's a drag strip. It's they're flying down on dirt bikes, go-karts. People do not stop at that stop sign. There's kids riding their bikes. I know the commissioners decided that it was in the best interest for the community to reopen that, but they don't live there. And it's something I'm trying to find out what I need to do to try to get that pushed again. Both of my neighbors are the ones that had to put up the fence to close it off, but their gates were busted open because people just felt like they had the right to go wherever they wanted. The other issue in that neighborhood is at 3100 33rd Street, there's an abandoned home. It's been that way. I noticed there's quite a few nuisance reports from Plain Township on there. The last one was actually August 14th. They had 7 days to get it cleaned up. The windows are busted out. Basically, it's a haven for stray cats, and I know I've seen the sheriffs around there. I don't know if they're looking for people that are in there, but I have seen people go in and out of that property. I believe the person was deceased that had the property before, and it's just getting worse in with that area with people going on that property. Also behind where I live, and I know this is Canton, there's a small wooded area. It's actually in Atlantic Plaza, and unfortunately, and people have situations, but homeless people actually live in there. There's mattresses, beer cans. The day my lawnmower got stolen that morning, the gentleman was walking out of there. That street on 34th Street is very ill lit. You can't see anything. After the last couple incidences, I actually have a motion detector on my shed, so when you get it 25 feet, it'll go off, so kind of a deterrent. My biggest problem is it's 25 feet from where my grandkids are sleeping. And I think there just needs to be, between the city of Canton, Plain Township, sheriff, some kind of better communication. And I know it doesn't always work that way with the police departments or whatever, for what I'm told. But I just thought that with, my truck being broken into on the same night that they did, and they responded, like I said, the sheriff's department responded greatly to my email and my concerns. I actually talked to them last night. But I was just trying to find out ways to better light the neighborhood up. Since Enro has a light every single pole going down it leading to Walmart, but I have one on my street from one corner to the next.
Do you have any other comments or questions?
I'm sorry, I think I covered it all.
Well, if not, we can go back through. I'm going to take, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to take first stab at it. First and foremost, with respect to lighting, there is potential through a lighting district that gets coordinated through the fiscal office. Something like that could be established. And essentially what that means is along that stretch of road, and Lisa, can you chime in here, correct me if I'm wrong, you have to have a petition just from that stretch of homes essentially saying, we would like to establish a lighting district. And what that means is the power company will provide lighting out on the pole, but then the cost to light the electricity for it is then assessed to your semi-annual tax bill. So the lighting district over 6 months may cost you $18. It may be 30, depends on how it's split up amongst the houses.
So it basically had to be something that the whole area agrees on?
I mean, you could, if you had 50%, if you had
50% of your street.
And-
Right over 50%.
Okay.
Yeah, and really what, it's nothing complex. You don't have to have some legal form drafted by an attorney. You get yourself a piece of paper that says, we that hereby undersign residents of this street, name your starting point and your end point, have them sign, have them print, and then print their name and their address. You can bring that into the board, or somebody can bring it into the board,
Okay.
and then through the fiscal office, we can get that going. Then it really is a matter of getting it scheduled. So that's the only thing I know from a lighting solution that we can potentially offer there. With respect to the access to the building, Chief, is there anything that we can do through the fire code to technically board that? Because we've had other properties within the township where it presents a harm or a threat that we've been able to go secure those openings, whether it's doorways or windows. We can definitely take a look at that to help pursue that, because Lord knows you don't want varmints in there because it creates a whole slew of health issues, but then also the homeless, squatters, all of that. We can try to help address that. Do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, we can pursue that with 50586. as a possibility. When you were talking about lighting, just so I make sure, are you talking about lighting on 33rd Street?
On 33rd Street, and actually if you go around, if you would go through the neighborhood at night,
Okay.
you can tell that basically Enro is pretty much the only well-lit street.
Yeah.
And it's because we're at least two,
But you did mention a little bit about 34th Street as well.
34th Street has very little lighting,
Yeah, but see,
except from behind Walmart.
That's actually in the city.
Yeah.
So we would not be able to help you with lighting.
Well, that was,
On 34th
so
Street.
all of 34th, because I was trying to locate it on the map, but all of 34th, so my backyard ends at Canton.
Correct.
Okay, so,
Yeah, that's part of the issue with that street.
right,
It's because you have two stop signs there. One that is actually in the city, and then you go through that short stretch that was closed and then
right.
reopened,
Yeah,
and that's back in the township.
yes.
So unfortunately, we have a situation, because we discussed that at length when that was going to open up, as to who's going to do the salting, to make sure that, you know, there was going to be adequate travel and all that kind of stuff. That was a big issue. That actually happened before I came, but I know towards the end, we discussed that at length. So, you know, unfortunately, it was opened back up. But Trustee Haas hit it right on the head in regards to the lighting. The best way to do that would be to work with our fiscal officer.
Okay.
And do that through petition, and we actually have a lot of those in the township. So they're all pretty successful, easy to do. I think that goes onto your electric bill, is that correct? Is that how that works? Or it goes on?
Through the tax.
Oh, sorry.
I got that.
Yeah. So, yeah.
It's usually pretty reasonable. I think what's important though to speak to during this whole road situation, because it was a point you brought up, is the road vacation. You're correct that the township can't directly do anything there.
You told me that when you came and see me.
Yeah, I can tell you, definitely with the current Board of Commissioners, there is absolutely no way, and I'm not speaking directly for them, but based upon comments that have been made before,
Yeah.
there's absolutely no way that they will remotely entertain vacating that road. I mean, when we went,
Again.
unfortunately, when we went through that process, we engaged a number of our departments and part service delivery partners to provide the commissioners with what they want,
Yeah.
what they wanted for information. We provided that. And that's actually what, you know, they reviewed, and they took it upon themselves to approve the vacation. There's now folks that like aren't in the immediate area, and the board was sort of well, it wasn't sort of, we were chastised for not reaching out into the other communities to get feedback and input, which they're not our political jurisdictions to worry about.
No, I live on an island.
Plain Township. So, that being said, they asked us to come back and provide information again from all these same partners and departments. Well, we as a board at the time, we're going to take same. We've already provided the information once. It hasn't changed how you wish to interpret and apply a decision. That's fun. So I wish I could speak, you know,
And
more
that's fine.
favorable
I just wanted
condition
to- yeah.
for you, but I mean, that's, you know, our collective understanding of that. Then honestly, you know, with respect to the string of break-ins and stuff, the sheriff's office will always tell you, report, and you see.
And that's one thing I did have a problem
Report
with.
like crazy. It gets frustrating because you're like, I gotta call again, am I bothering them?
Yeah.
No, in order to see those numbers, identify trends, so they can best manage their resources that we're contracted with, they need to see that. Is there anything else we can help?
No, and I think even like the small wooding area, that would be Ken's problem
Correct.
too, even though they won't respond to me when it comes to that. It's just, it's right behind my house, unfortunately. It's in Canton.
Do we know do we know what ward that is in the city of Canton, where we can identify who the council
So that's
is?
6.
Well, even if it's honestly, whether it's
Right,
at
I would
large.
have to call the town council, first and check on it.
I mean, that's the biggest we could project next year.
Anything would
sometimes,
help, would just.
Because you may be dealing with somebody, you know, that's just fielded the call, and I'm not saying this
Right.
disparagingly.
It
But hey,
happens. I work in
it's-
government, I know.
It's not mine to worry about. I don't know what to tell you, but
Right.
if we get that local representative, because I can tell you, I've dealt with some of their ward and at-large people over the years, and, you know, they always have made an effort to, you know, help push an issue. Now, whether we've got the end result that we're working towards, that may not always be the situation, but there's been an effort there.
Okay.
Hey, Captain Springer, did you have something that you'd like to?
Sir, I believe Sergeant Koenig spoke with you last night.
Yes, yes, he did. Very great conversation. I appreciated the time he took to speak with me and get, so he let me know that the increased patrols in the area.
Yes, sir.
And so I really appreciated that. And I know we were playing phone tag for a while, so, but yeah, with the responses I got from the sheriff's department and what I got here tonight, I do appreciate you guys giving me the time to speak.
You're always
Just-
sure.
Just when you know, two things basically in a week happen to you, you kind of, you know, trying to figure out how to best protect your family and.
Not right, please. Well, don't ever hesitate. I mean, during the days, you can always call Township Hall, our staff. You know, Lisa's our administrator, can help get you pointed in the right direction. Captain Springer, you know, is here regularly.
Okay.
It's part of his responsibilities through the sheriff to the township, and then, you know, if for any other reason, all of our mug shots, emails, and phone numbers are posted on the township website. If for some reason you can't find it,
Okay.
we'd be happy to.
And it is
Obviously.
Ward 6,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Kevin Hall.
And obviously, the tips they're gonna give you, they're gonna talk about lighting, make sure you have things locked up, pay attention to what's
Right.
going on, call.
Got it. Yeah, that was, I also, when I talked to him last night about how to set up a neighborhood watch or neighborhood association, and he referred me to James Knight at the
Yep.
prosecutor's office, so I'm gonna give him a call and, or to an email and try to get that set up in my neighborhood.
And if you
You'll
guys
find
get-
that to
Yeah.
be a very good use of your time.
Sir, the church located just west of you and a little bit south of you, and the name escapes me. They have a crime watch set up right there, so it's really just a block and a half or so from your house.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know. All right.
The little
Thank you,
white
sir.
church
Thank
on
you.
the corner? Yeah, we live right down the street.
What was the house number? You said it was vacant, or what street?
3100 33rd Street. You
Yeah.
probably would see it in the
Yeah.
Newton Street.
I just wanted to make sure I got Between zoning and us, we'll get out there tomorrow and see what we got.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience while we are on sheriff? Is there anyone else in the audience that would have a concern for the sheriff?
Oh, thank you.
Seeing none, we'll move on to, we have nothing for new business, nothing for unfinished business. That takes us to the fiscal officer's report, Mr. Wolf.
Thank you. Fiscal Officer number 1 is a request for resolution to authorize the payment of pending warrants in the amount of $90,596.69.
So moved.
Second, it's been moved and seconded, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 2 is a request for resolution to authorize payment of regular payroll in an amount not to exceed $250,000.
I'll move on fiscal officer number 2.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 3 is a request for resolution to authorize payment for the following medical claims.
So moved.
Second, it's been moved and seconded, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 4 is the financial report for the month of August. If anyone has any questions, I'm available after the meeting. Fiscal Officer number 5 is a request for resolution to authorize a refund as follows for overpayments for EMS as requested by Ohio Building.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 6 is a request for resolution to authorize the following transfers.
So moved.
Second, it's been moved and seconded, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And that concludes the Fiscal Officer report.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. That takes us to the administrator.
Tonight, I have the resolution for the cops and school agreement between the Stark County Sheriff and the Plain Township Board of Trustees, which would be dated this evening, September 11th of 2018. It is a resolution where the Board of Trustees will obtain a cops and school DARE law officer to work in the Plain local school systems. The officer selected by the Stark County Sheriff to work in that position. The salary and expenses is very similar to last year. The cost is $60,814.04. Other salary and benefit costs covered by the sheriff to be split between the school and the township, and that is the resolution in front of you.
I will move on to administrator number 1.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. This will not be Chad Smith, correct?
It can be anybody.
Yeah, we, like historically, always, right, that position has always been the Chad Smith, and I understand now.
Now it's SRO.
Yeah, so he's moved on, so we need to speak in terms of the position versus.
Not the person.
Yeah. So, anything?
Nothing, transportation, we're going to still continue to provide that car for that position. All right.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Thank you, and that's the end of administrative.
Thank you. Would be appropriate, is there anything, updates or anything, Sheriff?
Yes, be very appropriate.
For updates?
We can give you an update on the SROs, how's that?
That's perfect.
May I?
Absolutely.
Come up with it, because I too get confused on some of the names. So we went from, the sheriff's office in general went from 5 school resource officers throughout the county last year to 15, technically 19, because we have some part-time folks out there, but 15 full-time. So you can see we've been busy preparing and working with folks just like yourself to make that happen for the schools. And thank you for your cooperation and understanding in that regard. Major Stance, we're going to give you the names because I don't have them all. Because I don't know who's where, okay? So Chad Smith, you're going to be happy to know that Chad Smith is still in the school district. The payment for Chad has just changed slightly on how that we're doing that. So from Chad we have Deputy Sluga, who's where?
Sluga is at the
Glen Oak High School.
High School.
Beach.
Deputy Beach is where?
He's at the...
Glen Oak.
It's only been a week. Okay, we're
Glen Oak, sure.
Deputy Vodka is at
Oakwood.
Oakwood.
Then we have Everett and Elliott.
We have Deputies Everett and Elliott are at the elementary schools. And so total, 6 school resource officers in the Plain local school district now working together in cooperation. And to kind of follow up from the last speaker that was up here, sometimes it gets complicated because we're used to, people in this room up here and myself are used to working with some of the bureaucratic connections, and it's hard for folks to understand how some of these things work together. But fortunately, we were able to work with you folks, with the schools, and with the sheriff's office in general to provide these resources. So we're appreciative of that. I know the community is appreciative of that, and we'll continue to do that as needed. And I know there's other amenities that the township is supplying that make this possible. So we're very grateful that we're able to do that. What does that mean for the school year? It's yet to be seen, but obviously we hope that with that presence, we're already hearing from the community, honestly, in my office. We're already hearing from the community how the students, hearing from the students and the parents, how they feel safer in the schools, seeing that uniform presence. So that's a positive response. But that's where we are right now. We don't anticipate any major changes in that throughout the year. And they're not adding any more, I hope, because I'm out of people. Okay? And so that's kind of the update.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Can I say one thing about the last gentleman that spoke?
Absolutely.
First of all, thank you for coming forward and talking tonight, and I know that's a little nerve-wracking when you're the guy that's, coming up and talking about what's going on in your backyard. But I think just to reiterate what these folks have said, call. Don't be afraid to call us, and we're going to be there. As you found out, we will respond. One of the best things that you can do when you're a neighbor and your community, talk to your neighbors, is get involved in that neighborhood watch, because there are no boundaries. We get to talk about boundaries because that's what we do. But there are no boundaries for a neighborhood watch. It's just that, a neighborhood watch. And I heard you say that your backyard is like, you can see Canton from your backyard. I wanted to say that. So you can see Canton from your backyard, but
I can see Canton from my front yard.
she can see Canton. I'm not sure who's got the best view. But, with that being said, we don't like that we create these boundaries. We have to follow them, legislatively, there's things that we have to follow, but we don't like that we create these boundaries for you folks. And so the neighborhood watch is one of the best ways, because when you go to those meetings and they have us come and speak, you'll have Canton PD there as well to speak. And so you'll get kind of the best of both worlds as it relates to vetting your concerns, okay? And that makes us work harder, makes our folks work harder with Canton folks when we have cases where, we have a rash of break-ins in the parking lot and then it bleeds over in your neighborhood or vice versa. And so it makes us work a little harder at making sure that we address those issues. So thank you again for being here. I think you're from the same neighborhood, right? Okay, great.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Thank you. That takes us to Fire Department Chief Schallenberg.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to promote Cody Jenner from part-time status to full-time status, effective completion of his Ohio Police and Fire Pension medical physical.
I'll move on FD number 1.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. This is replacements for retirements.
Right, and it brings our staff up to 15 a day on one shift, and then the rest are part-time, so.
So Chuck, as we continue, we pulled what, 3 or 4 folks from the part-time ranks already to backfill some of this full-time. Do we anticipate taking a look at backfilling some of those
Yeah, that's kind of the next phase. Once, to try to replace the part-time status I have, so then we can have qualified people there that we can draw from to, we have retirements and et cetera.
Good. Anything else? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 2 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize the purchase and payment of gasoline, oil, diesel fuel, and miscellaneous from McIntosh Oil Company.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 3 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize the reimbursement to Steve Ass in the amount of $400 for his health care membership according to provision 37 of the collective bargaining agreement.
So moved. Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 4 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize payment to Catchell Grant Resources in the amount of $3,000 for an AFG grant award diesel emission exhaust system, not to exceed from account 10A15.
So moved. Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Anything?
Yes, sir. Just to let you know, we did receive the grant for $86,182, and that's to cover stations 2, 3, and 4 for diesel emissions capture systems. These folks here helped us write that grant along with some work internally. So we'll be getting $86,000 once we get that installed, so.
Nice.
So there's a big deal in the fire service now regarding carcinogens and cancer-causing agents. And it's pretty obvious that diesel smoke contains a lot of that. So the system will actually go directly onto the exhaust, automatically disconnect. So you figure every time those vehicles start and they leave, we want to call and come back, existing right now, they're sucking in diesel fuels. So that's going to change that fire station environment dramatically. Good job, Chuck, because I think that's definitely a worthwhile thing to go after. Definitely.
Nice job.
Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And that concludes fire department business.
Thanks, Chuck. Nothing for the road department. That takes us to zoning, Mr. Farrar.
Thank you, sir. Item number 1 is a resolution to declare items A through D as nuisance abatements.
So moved. Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
And item number 2 is a resolution to declare items A through C as abatement payments.
So moved. Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
And that's all it is for zoning tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Farrar. That takes us to the Parks Department. Mr. Steinberg.
Thank you. I have a resolution to authorize payment to Rice's Nursery in the amount of $32.20 to be taken from the aforementioned funds, OF, 01F02, 01F02A, and 14AOB. These are the fibrous mulch replacements for the playgrounds. They just, with the weathering and the usage, they get stamped down. We need to fill them. BWC requires us to have a certain level in each one of those pits.
So moved. Second's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Thank you. And item number 2 is just an update. I think we spoke many weeks ago about the possibility of having the Silver Sneakers program over here at Plain Township Hall in partnership with the North Canton YMCA. I'm happy to report that kicked off last week with 7 attendees. It takes place right here at Township Hall in the hall every Wednesday from 10 to 11. They like you to get here around 10 so you can get your exercise equipment and your chair organized, and goes till 11. We saw a great response. We're seeing a great response on social media, and class number 2 of the first session is tomorrow. So for seniors in Plain Township, please be aware this is a free class. The township is hosting it. Township residents are free, and the North Canton Y pays for the instructor, the equipment, and the time. That's all.
Thanks. It's a pretty good offer. Yeah. Thanks, Rob. Law Director has nothing, no communications. That brings us to the portion of the meeting of public speaks. If there's anybody in the audience that wishes to address the board, please give your name and address to the fiscal officer for the purpose of documentation. And then if you can stay where you are, or you can come up front. So whenever you're ready, I'll acknowledge this first couple here.
I know why we have this picture. You don't have to use your phone.
For Gary and Pamela Bester, for 2459 30th Street, Northeast. I'm here for my mother. She lives at 2445 30th Street. I live right next to her. Fellow bought a property up for my mother, lives in a little mobile home right next to her. The problem we're having is he has a dumpster.
For a trash can.
For a trash can. And it's a permanent dumpster. And we're getting rodents, trash, blows out. Now the rodents are underneath my mom's home. She's 84 years old. My older sister's living with her. She's 65. You can't have no pets because these rodents.
We've killed 2 in 2 days.
Yeah. Now they called the police on me today, the sheriff. I talked to Al earlier, and then I talked to the wildlife. They said you can either take it to the end of your property and release it, or euthanize it. So I did that with a pellet gun, and they called the sheriff. This is an ongoing thing. Tom knows about it. I believe the chief knows about this guy. He's a piece of work. But anyways, the biggest problem is when we come out in the summertime, it stinks so bad. And there's flies. There's animals getting in it, bringing up garbage on my mom's deck, throwing up bones. Just, this guy, you know, I have to pay for Kimball. Why doesn't he? In 1993, I opened up a detail shop.
It's like that all the time.
I can see if you have construction being done, but do you use it for a trash can?
How could we possibly have that much stuff coming out of that trailer? That's what I don't.
Well, he runs a business also,
So,
out of his home. And he, like he does garage.
But it's not zoned for business, or
No.
is it?
No, no.
He has a garage door company that he runs out of his home.
Plus
And he
he's running
puts
a
all the
dog
boxes,
there.
with the wood boxes and everything
That's from
in the
his
garage
job.
doors, yeah. But I mean, there is trash.
Said something to me about that. He
How do we
thought,
not-
trying to find out if he's dumping his trash from his business in that every
Yes,
day.
sir.
And
Currently
then,
trying to
on top of
investigate.
that, here. On top of that, he's got, we're getting dumpster divers,
Yeah.
people walking in through
They
the
just
two
throw a mattress in
trailers.
there,
People are throwing mattresses in there.
and they're walking between the trailers.
It's just,
It's an ongoing
I mean, we don't
problem.
live in the best part of Plain Township, but I don't think any of you would like to have a stinky, stanky dumpster.
Walk out your door every day and look at that, rusty, stinky dumper, overflowing. The guy had to tarp it last time, to haul it away.
And I'm honestly amazed that the refuse company will take it when it's
Republic.
over the line, because I know with my business, we do restoration, reconstruction. And the providers that we have, if it's over that top line, they won't take it. They'll come set another dumpster and we'll have to transfer it. But neither here nor there. I mean, for the sake of the situation, I mean, one is the health, have we talked to the health department about what type of nuisances it's attracting from a varmint aspect here? And I mean, two, I mean, I don't know how much research or what are we trying to identify in our research to determine fairly reasonably that it's a business? Because, my God, you can reframe
Well,
it
yeah, it's
inside
been
that.
on the yard for a while.
Yes.
Yeah, I think what happened is we turned him into the Better Business Bureau because he was carrying a Better Business plaque on his truck, and he wasn't a member of the Better
He
Business
just took
Bureau.
off the
So
ground.
fully deceptive.
So I think Better Business Bureau came out and made him take that off of his
They
truck.
have 14 dogs in that trailer. It's
Right now.
12 by 60, and there's 4 people that live there. There was 5, his father just passed away. And we've been going through a property dispute for 2 years. The auditor's department screwed it up in the 50s. Now, we got that figured out. We're going to court here, hopefully in September. But we do have half of that property, and he gets the other half. This guy built a fence down the middle, put a fence around my mom's air conditioning unit for the last 2 years in heaters.
We know that, yeah, we know that one, yeah. But that one, you're under litigation.
Yeah, that's under
So
litigation.
That's an whole other.
But when it was under litigation, how did he get that building out there, that shed put there?
How was there a shed?
When I asked
between the
anything
two
about
properties?
anything, they said it was under litigation.
We can't do anything.
We can't do nothing. Hands are
Yes.
tied, go to court.
Somebody here.
That's our
They
offices?
asked for a permit to put a shed on their property within 5 foot of the property line, and they received a permit. There's no way that I can keep from issuing one.
And it's clear.
And that's actually on their property.
Yeah, you got the
Meets
setbacks.
the setbacks.
But the
The problem
determination of
here,
the property line hasn't been,
Well, that's what you guys are.
Yeah.
That's according to what we have. If
Yeah.
you're going to court to try to change it, that's a
Right.
whole other ball of wax.
Yeah, when you look at it from the auditors,
Right.
it looks like it goes over.
That's what you get.
It's taken us 2 years to do that. My mom and dad had Solomon, an attorney on it for 15 years. He never did nothing our attorney did in 2 years.
First of all, I'm glad you guys came. I wanted these two to hear because you spent a lot of time with me on the phone. I wanted the two board members to hear, because, and there's a concern of them too. I know, nobody wants to have that in front of the yard.
It's true.
And I think our zoning director and our law director might have come up with something. And again, I'm only one speaking, but I know like these two are gonna be okay with it too, probably because who wants a dumpster that big, considered called a trash can?
Like I was saying,
Tom's researched it now and found Austintown. He found a city that has a restriction on these, which I told you a little bit today that if it was under, if it's something doing construction, we all understand it.
Right.
Yeah, that's.
We understand, but this here is a
That's
trash
temporary.
can. So that's where it's at now. I don't know from here where it's gone. I know Tom did some great research. Eric hasn't looked at it yet, but I'm sure we'll look at it. And I'm glad you brought it in front of these two.
Yeah, 'cause Mom's been there 50 years and she's never had animals tunnel under her house. You know, and this is just,
Does it look promising?
how many more years does she have left in her life, this guy?
It's whatever you do.
Yeah.
You guys will make that.
It would come under a home rule.
No,
have to.
zoning
Oh,
resolution.
come under
we
zoning?
would
Oh,
do
okay.
it with zoning.
Very good. So we are working on it. Everybody told you, but I wanted you to come in, let me need to.
So for the sake of the residents getting a better feel of it, if the board proceeds with the zoning resolution, what type of timetable is typically associated with that, Tom? Just so we can set some reasonable potential expectations here, because it's not hey, we say we want to do it tonight, and next thing you know, next week it's good to go. There's some review that has to be done.
Yes.
With that by the zoning commission.
It appears that, I don't think we'll be able to get anything in for, until the first Wednesday in November, the 7th of November. At that meeting.
We're working on this. We're making an attempt. I told you, we're working on it. So, okay, we're on your side here. We're working on it.
If they agree to the wording in that meeting, then it will come before the board. Has to come before the board twice. We're looking at mid-December.
Before anything would be official.
To make it all, if we're not going to make it all legal, we have to go through the procedure.
And if we go to court before then, and
Well, your court's a different issue with the dumpster.
I'm just, I'm just saying, and then maybe we can bring the shed into something that he can move it once our property is.
How would something like that work? And I mean, we're mixing a lot of topics.
Yeah.
So I want to
Yes,
cover
very
correct.
Let's wait for that.
Say from a high level, the permit's been issued based upon the boundaries as we see them today.
Right.
For the system, but from a legal aspect, it's determined that the boundary shifts X, which now puts the shed that was previously permitted under a prior established line out of the.
I would just pull it under litigation and no party could put up any fences or anything. That's what I thought. Nobody could do nothing.
This has been going on since January of 2017. We have been there to either the Bester's house or the Wyant's house. Now, a problem property for us will require 7, 8, maybe 9 visits a year. We have been to this home, or to these 2 homes, 30 times in the past 19 months. We've received over 18 phone calls, some of them extended phone calls that have taken a lot of our time. I have done everything I possibly can to try and assist these people. When the neighbor came up and said their front porch was on his property, and I looked at the property lines, it appeared their front porch was on the property. The Wyants wanted that front porch gone immediately. I advised the Besters to get an attorney. They got an attorney, he sent me a letter. That letter stated this is in litigation. That porch is out of my jurisdiction until that litigation is out. But that doesn't put the balance of the property out of my jurisdiction. I can still put a permit for their shed or for the Wyatt shed.
Because we don't know yet.
It doesn't. The fence went up. That's before we even knew what was going on. He drew a line, or had a surveyor come out and set a line. The Wyans set that fence on that line. Now, it's the Besters' contention that that line is not true. That's up to the courts. What I've done is everything that I can. If the Wyans are trying to investigate that, we are limited in our investigation abilities.
What it is my parents had that double wide, and then there's another section of property in the middle of both trailers. And then the little trailer's on a section. And that's what we're determining. We're gonna cut that right down the middle. It's 45 foot wide. When it comes back, it's gonna be 22 and a half foot for me, 22 and a half foot over for him. And I'll be cool with that.
And then the other issue is they have their wooden fence in front of her heating, air conditioning unit.
Start in the air.
She has not had heat
Yeah.
or air conditioning
2 years.
for 2 years.
Yeah, that's just,
84 years old.
And it's not serving a purpose.
that's almost evil.
He is evil.
He is an evil
He even
person.
told one of the healthcare workers, I hope this kills your mother-in-law. So, I mean, we're talking with really evil people.
I mean, I wanna get this in court and done as quick as possible.
So I think, at least from a zoning standpoint, I don't think there was ever in anybody's wildest imagination that there was gonna be somebody that put this huge dumpster in front of their house to become their trash receptacle.
Yeah.
And we just never had any zoning restrictions for that. There was this assumption there was going to be that dumpster was going to be there for construction purposes, concrete, whatever it might be. You know, once that project's done, it's hauled out of there. And again, now we have to look at, might it happen again? Possibly. But if that's the case, we've got to create some regulations.
I personally checked with 30 different townships and the city of Canton and North Canton. Only one of those 30 has any kind of a regulation for trash.
Yeah, because people don't use dumpsters.
Exactly, they don't use it.
Yeah, nobody's ever thought of that.
I mean, it's expensive.
Well, just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Unless it's typically for business purposes.
Yes.
And, you know, if that's the case, you might be writing some things off that,
Now, see,
You know.
in '93, I started a detailing business at my place. I come in front of you guys for deals, everything, got everything, did everything, the building right, and everything. And they told me no dumpsters, no tires, no 55-gallon drums, and I always abided by that. And this guy, he's just above the law.
well, I know Mr. Lino has worked on this,
Yes,
I know he
and
has.
obviously we're definitely in support of, you know, doing this. He said it best, just be a little patient. I know you've had a lot of grief
Bring it out
over
and
this,
make it aware of it, you know.
but, well,
And
you
it
know,
just, the raccoon today that he had to shoot,
I can't.
it devastated him. We're not hunters. I don't believe in killing animals,
They
but
have to shoot it 4 times with a pellet gun. I just, you know.
it's not, it's had us just blah all day today. Just
And yesterday it was a possum. What's it gonna be tonight?
well, you know, we'll work real hard to try to take care of what we can take care of. I would just be real careful that even with your frustration, you don't step outside of that illegal, anything that it might be because you're frustrated. Because you don't want to step over to that side either, even in your
I'm
frustration.
level-headed, he's not, I am.
So, anything else? No?
No, thanks.
But I appreciate you guys working.
Thank you for giving me the time.
Oh, no, thank you.
You're always welcome.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
speak at
thank
any
you.
meeting.
Yes,
We will. Thank you.
Thanks.
thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to address the board? Please give your name and address for the purpose of the fiscal officer, and you can come up to the podium.
Mark Sunbury, II, 1065 Bellevue Street Northeast, Stanton, Ohio, 44721. Just wanted to address the board in regards to a letter that I received. Actually, I had an individual who stopped at my home. I actually happened to be home. That there was a concern about trash and debris. And Not that anyone here needs to be concerned about that, but I was deployed in the National Guard and came off orders in May. And I've been working with my brother who was staying in my home while I was gone. And it said that I had 7 days to complete the removal. The gentleman stopped on Tuesday, September 7th, and I didn't receive the letter in my mailbox until September 8th. And it stated that I had to have everything gone by September the 7th, which was 2 days later, or would be result in the matter being forwarded to township trustees to declare it a nuisance. After proper written notice, violations have not been corrected within the 7 days, the township trustee may employ necessary labor, materials, and equipment to perform the task. These expenses will be incurred and shall be entered on a tax duplicate or as a lien on the land from the date of entry. The only thing I would ask individuals is that you give adequate notice and that there's a response to a letter that comes from this. I was just kind of taken back. I try to be a good neighbor, and my brother is not exactly the best individual I have, but he was the only individual I had to take care of my home while I was gone. And I was just really disappointed. So I appreciate your time, so I wanted to make sure.
Actually, that's not on our agenda.
It's on the agenda today.
Right?
No.
So there's nothing official that we're going to do tonight. So.
I might, if you want me to explain that.
Absolutely.
We send out the Ohio Revised Code. Sends that the date we mail, that certified mail, from that date forward is the 7 days.
So whether that certified mail is signed off, though, is where.
Yeah, so in this case, it could have been held up, but from that 7 days, then it waits for your meeting. And then from your meeting, there's another 7 days. So there's a possibility, at least 14, minimum 14 days, very seldom in session. And it could go to 3 weeks easily.
Yeah,
Before it's cleaned up. Yeah.
I think about 3 week period that we don't have a meeting.
But even if it comes in on a Thursday, it's not going to be a meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's never 14 days.
No,
Yeah.
no. I don't know how long that took exactly, but
So I have a copy of the letter. It was sent on the 31st of August, and it just says, please arrange to comply within 7 days of this letter by removing the trash and debris for those consequences. And in my eyes, it looks to be like, if you don't get this out of here, and it's taken care of, you don't have to worry, you can send somebody else out, that's fine. But, I mean, I even had a deployed flag stating in my window, and I just found it kind of, I thought I had some good neighbors, and it kind of took me back. I've been at this house my entire life.
And I can vouch for him. I live up the road, and he is in service, and I've actually talked to his brother. I see him out on the porch all the time, and they cleaned it up. They're out there in the dark cleaning it up, and I was like, I was surprised you got home, and I said, I said, I think we're cleaning up all the stuff so late at night, so that must be why I look.
I will say, I mean, I've had the privilege of actually knowing Mark since
1999.
Yeah, so 19 years. He always has been I'm not saying it just for, he's a fine, respectable, outstanding individual, and he's served a number of deployments and so forth. So speaking to the quality of character and integrity is what I'm getting at. Let's just make sure. Unfortunately, I know it's frustrating to get that. Unfortunately, the rigidness of some of the Ohio Revised Code that the state legislature sends. We also still have to ensure our compliance, because if there's somebody that does report it, unfortunately, residents, we can't thumb our nose to them either. So apologize for the frustration and that aggravation.
And thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you.
we are complaint driven. The only reason we would have been out there is because somebody in the neighborhood, somebody contacted us and complained about it. I have no idea who lived there. We just have to follow up on those complaints. We're bound to follow up on them, so.
I mean, I don't want to make it bigger than what it is.
And we try and make
I mean,
contact.
if somebody calls in and declares who they are, we can provide that as some information if he was to make a records request.
Yes.
Of it, but just so he would know, but should they have asked to remain anonymous or whatever, that would be the only instance.
That would
where,
99% of
On the
people.
report would be anonymous.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the only thing, just for.
But I don't know
trying
in
to
this
put
case
some
if that was
closure
or
to-
not. I don't know.
Again, I just wanted to express, so I appreciate your time.
Sure, thank you.
Sorry.
That takes us, oh, I'm sorry, is there anybody else in the audience that wishes to address the board? That takes us to the approval of minutes for August 28, 2018.
So moved.
I'll second, it's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
We do have a need for an executive session, be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adjourn to the executive session at 6:56 p.m. from this regular meeting of September 11, 2018 is authorized under Ohio Revised Code 121.22G for the purpose of the consideration of, number 3, a conference with the law director or other retained counsel concerning pending or imminent court action.
So moved.
Second, it's been moved and seconded, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.